do is the moment I see one person on the line, I'm going to tell you to go ahead, and then I'm going to go on mute. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
Perfect. And you are ready to go. Go ahead and start. Marion, you can go ahead and begin.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall with Congressman Scott Peters. He's seeking re-election as your U.S. representative in order to bring more jobs to San Diego, protect the environment, and to create opportunities for middle-class families. My name's Marianne Pintar. I'm Scott's campaign manager, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's event. We'll begin in just a moment, and we're really glad that you were able to join us tonight. Before we start, I wanted to make a few quick points. Right now, we're in the process of dialing out to thousands of people, so just stay on the line and we'll be hearing from Congressman Peters shortly. We want to hear from you, so if you'd like to ask a question of Scott, please press 0 on your telephone keypad and you'll be connected directly with one of our volunteer operators. Again, press 0 to ask a question and you'll be connected to one of our operators. If you've just joined us, good evening and welcome again to tonight's telephone town hall with Congressman Scott Peters. Again, I'm Marianne Pintar, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's event. We're going to begin in just a moment, and thank you again for joining us. We're glad you were able to. Right now, we're in the process of dialing out to thousands of people, so stay on the line, and we'll hear from Congressman Peters shortly. If you want to ask a question of Scott, please press 0 at any time during this event. Again, press 0 at any time to ask a question. And now I'm happy to introduce Congressman Scott Peters.
Thanks, Marianne. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm pleased that we were able to use technology to create a virtual town hall, which is a place where we can talk directly about the issues important to you and your neighborhood and our city. I wanted to begin tonight by pointing out that the election is exactly 15 days from today, and that means that 11:59 p.m. tonight is the cutoff for registering to vote. If anyone on this call thinks they might not be registered, or if you recently moved, I really want to encourage you to go online right now and fill out a registration form online. If you register to vote on the Secretary of State's website by 11:59 tonight, you'll be registered for this year's election. And the website for registering to vote is registertovote.ca.gov. Registertovote.ca.gov. And if you're like me, you're tired of seeing all these ads we're seeing on television. Some of them are from my opponent and me, and many of them are from independent groups that are not controlled by either candidate. So this electronic town hall is an attempt to move beyond the 30-second TV ads and give you straight answers to your questions. You can ask me about whatever issue you want, but I'm especially interested in talking about the issues that I've worked the hardest on in Congress, creating jobs. I'm a big advocate of investing in research here in San Diego. Much of our economy is dependent on biotechnology and on clean energy. I'm interested in investing in the green economy by looking for alternative energy. I've been particularly active in the military, supporting the Navy's interest in biofuels and the Marines' interest in solar energy. I'm a big fan of investing in education. We can't compete in a brain-powered economy that's global unless we have powered brains, and I'm particularly interested in lowering the cost of student loans. I have a bill to lower all student loan debt to 4% interest, which is a way to help not saddle young people who are struggling to get through school with excessive debt. I'd like to reform the tax code in a way that would incentivize jobs on site, and I'd like to make sure that we balance our budget in the long term because we have long-term concerns about the amount of debt that we're carrying as a nation. For all these efforts, I'm proud to be endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I'm one of just 5 Democrats in the country. I have 250 candidates endorsed. And 11 former chairs the Regional Chamber of Commerce here in San Diego. The U.S. Chamber said in endorsing my campaign that, quote, "We believe your re-election to the U.S. House of Representatives will help produce sustained economic growth, help create jobs, and get our country back on track," end quote. I'm very proud of that. Hope that you will agree, and thanks for being with us tonight. With that, I'm open to taking your questions. Marianne?
Thank you, Scott. We do have some people on the line who would like to ask a question. I'm going to go first to Mohammed, who has a question about jobs in the economy. Mohammed, you're on the line with Congressman Scott Peters. Would you like to ask him a question?
Hello, Mohammed.
Hi, Mr. Scott. My question is, because of economy, I wonder why the government doesn't try to bring job back from South Asia, from China, from India, or wherever in South Asia, and to bring it here to make more job for the American, or if they say the free market, international market, so raise the import tax from outside. First of all, it increased government income, and second one, the American company can compete with the cheap and low price of the South Asia production.
Well, I'll give you some ideas about how I think that the United States might compete. Really we want to make the United States the best place to do business in the world. I'm a fan of the work of Professors Porter and Rifkin at Harvard Business School Competitiveness Project. Some of the things they talk about are tax reform that would incentivize job creation here. We see a lot of inversions because our tax policies aren't favorable. We need to invest in education. We can't really be leaders in the world in terms of a brain-powered economy unless our kids are getting educated. That means that Washington, D.C. has to stand behind financial aid. I'm a financial aid product. My dad's a minister. My mom stayed at home with me and my three sisters. I couldn't have gone to college without the government standing behind me. We need to provide that same opportunity to all kids who are growing up today in the country. We need to invest in science. Basic scientific research is important for San Diego, but if we don't invest, our competitors, countries like China and Singapore and England and Israel and Brazil, will be more attractive for our young scientists than the United States. Those are some of the ideas I have, in addition to investing in infrastructure and responsible development of energy resources here. I think that there's a lot we should be doing, tackling in Congress.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Mohammed, for your question. I just wanted to remind everyone, if you have just joined us, you are participating in a telephone town hall with Congressman Scott Peters. And if you'd like to ask Scott a question directly here on our line tonight, please press 0, and one of our operators will get to you and ask you a question. We'll get to your question and put it in the queue, and we'll try and get you on the line with Scott as soon as we can. I'm going to go to Marcio in University City. Marcio, are you there?
Yes.
You're on this line with Congressman Scott Peters.
Mr. Congressman, would you like to know what is your plan for funding research in this country when research funds for NIH, for instance, and other federal institutions are being cut dramatically, while our competitors, for example, China, is investing billions of dollars? What is your plan to make us competitive?
I think it's a great question, Marcio, and I learned about this on my visit to the Salk Institute when I was running in 2012, and they heard that someone who might be a member of Congress was going to be visiting, and a lot of the top scientists in the region got together, and they told me the story that it takes until you're about 40 years old to get the education you need to get the lab where you can compete for grants. And in the good times, we awarded about 25% of the grants. Today, because funding has dropped and because of inflation, we're only awarding about 7% of the grants, and that means that young scientists are being attracted by other places. So, folks who are in their 50s who are scientists, many of the top scientists are in the United States, but younger scientists are thinking of really wondering whether the United States is going to stand behind their research and provide them the opportunity to cure disease and start companies and feed their families. And so we have to step up as part of a balanced budget. We have to make investing in research a priority just as much as keeping the bridges up and investing in infrastructure. We can't keep our lead in science unless we invest in it. I've been an advocate for that. I've gotten actually an award from the California Healthcare Institute for my leadership on medical innovation and advocacy, and I'll continue to do that. I think we're going to have to find like-minded people in Congress one by one, but I appreciate the question. I think it's very important for the country and for San Diego. Marianne?
Yes. Thank you for that question. We've got a lot of questions here in the queue. We're going to get to them as quickly as we can. Again, if you've just joined us and you'd like to ask a question of Congressman Scott Peters, please press 0, and one of our operators will take the call and put you in our question queue. Next, we're going to go to Jaya from Poway. Jaya, you are on the line with Congressman Scott Peters. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Jaya. How are you?
Good, thank you, Congressman Scott Peters. I'm a lifetime Democrat and have always voted in that direction. But this time I'm having my doubts because of all the negative campaigning that is going on. I'm wondering what is the reason for such negative campaigning instead of putting your strengths out there and not worrying so much about what the other person did, or why is that important? Why not push your strengths out there?
Well, I appreciate the question. I know that people are frustrated. We've tried to highlight some of the work we've done on helping veterans and some other work we've done on no budget, no pay, and trying to get Congress on track. And but part of the, I think it's part of the campaign is also to explain the differences between one candidate and the opponent. And I would say the one thing I have done is explained that my opponent, Mr. DeMaio, has a very right-wing political record, cutting veterans off Medi-Cal and cutting financial aid for, proposing cuts to financial aid for Cal State systems and so forth. And that's fair. That's a fair comment, and I expect him to be critical of my political record and my record on issues, and I think that's fair. The place where I think it crosses the line is where it goes to integrity. And I've been willing to, some of these ads that we don't have control over. Just last week I criticized the Democratic Party for an ad that they ran with these kids holding up signs against Mr. DeMaio. I didn't think it was appropriate to use children. I was willing to criticize them. I'd ask for the same kind of consideration on integrity issues as I've given Mr. DeMaio in that way. There's an ad out there that suggests that I made money in the stock market based on defense contracts. And the thing you should know is that Congress doesn't decide what companies get contracts. We decide on a budget, and then the Pentagon issues all those contracts through competitive bidding and procurement rules. I had no input into that. That's why all the fact checkers have called those ads false and have said that they get an F on civility and F on truth. And so I've asked Mr. DeMaio to denounce those ads, and he's chosen not to do that, and even though that's an insult to my integrity and that of my wife. So I think it's fair for Mr. DeMaio or for me to talk about our political records and our records on issues, and I think that's important for voters. But where I don't like and what I don't like and where I think it crosses the line is when you go after these integrity issues without any foundation. And I will commit to you not to try not to do that. Thank you very much, Jaya, for the question.
Thank you, Jaya, and thank you, Scott. We have a few more questions here in the lineup. We're going to go to Matt from Del Mar. Matt, are you on the line? Do you have a question for Congressman Peters?
Yes. Congressman Peters, why did the people of San Diego have to pay for your BMW?
Oh, let me answer that question. I appreciate the question. I think that's a really unfair characterization that the opposition has made, and I'll just tell you, when I came into office in the city council, the compensation package included a $73,000 salary and a $900 a month allowance for use of your personal car for business, and everyone got the same amount of money. They could decide what kind of car they got. And so what Mr. DeMaio has done is aggregated all of those monthly allowances and said that I bought a car with it. Well, I think that's an unfair characterization. I got the same compensation package that everyone else got and that was in existence when I got there. So it's unfair to say that I billed the taxpayers for a car. But I think the other thing that Mr. DeMaio doesn't tell you is that when I was on the city council, I turned down $140,000 worth of salary. And if he wants to talk about me taking a $900 a month car allowance, he ought to at least explain to people what my full record is. He'll tell you that I take a $20,000 pension, but he won't tell you I've given every dime back to city libraries. I mean, tell the whole story. I've turned down the congressional pension. I've turned down the congressional health care. When the Tea Party cuts of 8% across the board came in, the sequester cuts, I cut my own pay by 8%, gave it to charity. And when the Tea Party shut down the government in their last attempt to repeal the health care law, I I donated my entire salary for that period to local charities for seniors and veterans who were the victims of those cuts. So I think that's a really unfair characterization. I think that Mr. DeMaio can do better. That kind of campaign doesn't create a single job, doesn't talk about how to educate a kid or keep the bridges up, and I object to it. But thank you very much for the question. I appreciate the chance to clear it up. Marianne?
I think we're going to go to a poll question right now. We're going to ask a question, and then everyone will have an opportunity to weigh in and tell us what issues matter most to them by pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. The question is, what issues matter, or what issue matters most to you in this election? If your answer is jobs and the economy, you can press 1. If your answer is fixing Congress and reforming government, please press 2. If you think it's protecting our environment, press 3. Healthcare, 4. Or investing in education and making college more affordable, please press 5. Again, the question is, what matters most to you? For jobs in the economy, please press 1. Reforming government and making Congress work again, press 2. Protecting our environment, press 3. Healthcare, press 4. Or education, investing in our education system and making college more affordable, please press 5. While people are responding to the poll question, we're going to take some more questions from you, our callers. Let's see. John from Rancho Bernardo, are you on the line? John, you're on the line with Congressman Peters if you have a question.
Hi there, Congressman Peters.
Hi, John.
Hi. So I would like to know, do you have any plans to take better advantage of our proximity to Mexico in terms of increasing trade or increasing joint research and development, those sorts of things?
That's a great question, John. I think, too often we see the border as a barrier rather than an opportunity. And when I came into office, we asked this regional chamber of commerce and Jerry Sanders, what are some of the things we could best do in Congress to help the region? And he identified the border waits as the biggest problem. That every time a truck can't cross twice a day because the border waits and only crosses once a day, we lose income, we lose trade, and when people can't get across the border, it discourages trade. So we made it a priority to continue to fund the San Ysidro border crossing. Working together, the 5 of us who represent the area, 2 Republicans and 3 Democrats, worked on this. The President, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, and we got $226 million investment that will really help lower those border waits and provide a better access across the border. The Regional Economic Development Corporation, the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, they all see the opportunities in cross-border trade and employment, and we're willing to support any of those kinds of things. The other thing is we're advocating for the pedestrian bridge to the Tijuana Airport, which also would help us take some of the pressure off Lindbergh Field. Imagine if you were able to check in the U.S. side, walk across to Mexico, and take flights out of there. I think that would be a very, very helpful supplement. And again, additional border crossings with innovative kind of financing systems like tolls that would be paid by truckers. Those are all things we can do to help cross-border trade and foster a good relationship that I know that most electeds in their local region realize is important for the region. So thank you for the question, John. It's a real priority of all of ours. Marianne?
Thank you, John. Thank you, Scott. I'm going to talk about the results of our poll question. Again, the question we asked was, what issues were most important to you, or what issue was most important to you in this election? 33% of you said jobs and the economy. 31% said reforming government and making Congress more accountable. 3% said 13% said health care. 17% said education, and 7% said protecting our environment. Thank you for participating in our poll question. And next we're going to go to Sharon in Sereno Valley. Sharon, are you on the line to speak with Congressman Peters?
Yes,
Hello,
I'm
Sharon.
here. Hello, Congressman Peters. How are you?
Great, Sharon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I have a question. I'm an older person. I'm not going to say how old, but I know that I have younger, in their 20s, children. They don't watch television, so they miss all of the ads that are, and
Right.
they really focus on Twitter and YouTube and all of that kind of thing. And I find that the emphasis on ISIS and on Ebola is not something they're at all interested in. They don't think that that's a real threat. And they are somewhat interested in higher wages, equal pay, getting insurance, contraceptive freedom for women, and that kind of thing. But I don't see that that's being just listed as issues they should be concerned about. I don't see you reaching them. How are you going to be able to do that?
Well, it's a great question. Part of it is, I think we all know we don't choose what the media decides to cover. And I do believe that, by the way, that ISIS is a serious threat, and Ebola is something that we have to pay really close attention to, both locally and internationally. As for those other issues, you can always invite those folks to reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk about our positions on those. Equal pay has been a particular interest of mine. It's been something that I've emphasized in Congress. We support the Equal Pay Act, the idea that women should get equal pay for equal work. We think that's only fair. And I'm a co-sponsor of the bill and really working hard to see if the Speaker would let us vote on it. I think that would be great. And on reproductive freedom, I have a 20-year history of fighting for women's issues, both women's economic security and women's reproductive freedom. And proud to have a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood and their endorsement. I filled out the questionnaire, and everyone is able to see what my positions are. So I've been a real advocate on those things. One thing about my opponent is he characterizes reproductive freedom and the ability to marry who you love and even the ability to vote as social issues that are divisive and have no place in the federal government. But I think it's a really important part of the federal government to fight for civil rights. And I've thought that since I was raised by a father who's a minister and fought for desegregation of housing in the Detroit suburbs in the 60s at a very tumultuous time. I saw him walk the walk, and I've tried to follow his example. So thank you very much for the question, and we'll keep plugging away. But if anyone has any interest, they can reach out to us at scottpeters.com, and we can always answer questions about the things that the media may not be covering. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. Next, we're going to go to Donna in Scripps Ranch. Donna sounds like you have a different type of question. It sounds interesting. So are you there on the line? Donna, are you on the line with Congressman Peters?
Hi, good evening. I am.
Hey, Donna.
Hello.
What's your question, Donna? Hello?
Hi. Our question is to you. What do you feel is your strongest traits, and what do you feel is your weakest traits that you could be offering in comparison to your opponent?
Well, I've spent a lot of time. I had two careers. One I was an environmental lawyer for 15 years. Then I went into local government. I think the thing that I'm able to do that I enjoy doing is kind of listening for where people who disagree can make solutions. I think I'm pretty good at finding where the middle ground is, and that was really, I think, the reason why I was unanimously elected as the city council president, the first one when I was on the city council, and I was able to talk about to become the port chairman because my colleagues trusted me to be fair with them and to see if we couldn't find where answers were. I do think that's something right now that Washington needs. I think my staff would say that I am not as vocal about being angry and about fighting as sometimes I should be. I think that's just not my natural orientation. And I guess I think that my own feeling is that there's a lot of that in Congress right now. And I think listening is where really leadership comes from, and that the real courage today is not to go talk to your own people and give speeches to people who agree with you, but really to talk about how do you go to the middle of the room, look the person in the eye who you disagree with, and try to find common ground, and then be able to shake their hands and find an agreement. So that's that's kind of what I've done. I would just say one of the groups that I'm in Congress is called No Labels, nolabels.org. You can check that out. But it's a group of Republicans and Democrats who are really working together along those lines to try to find ways to make Congress work again and to build trust. And I hope you will send me back to keep doing that. I think that's the right approach. It's a harder approach than the yelling and screaming approach, but I think it's the only way to get Congress, get you back to Congress that you can be proud of and that America deserves.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to go to Amanda in Ocean Beach. Amanda, are you there on the line? And you've been holding for a while.
Hi, Congressman Peters. As a recent graduate with student loan debt, I was wondering what actions you are taking to address the student loan crisis and make college more affordable.
Thanks, Amanda. I think you may know that I'm like I said, my dad is a minister. My mom stayed home with me and my three sisters. We didn't have a lot of money, but we never had any doubt that if I worked hard in school and got the grades and got into a college, that we'd be able to afford it. And that was because we knew that I could get financial aid. I got grants. I got low-interest loans. I got a work-study job, which helped me work through school. And that's how I think most middle-class kids have always expected to get ahead. Today, that's harder because the cost of a public education is so much more expensive. It's 300% more expensive adjusted for inflation than 30 years ago when I got out of school. So the federal government, the one thing we can't do in the federal government is increase the burden of student debt. And I've got two bills, just to answer your question about what I'm doing. One would refinance all student debt to 4% interest, which is just a little bit more than the government pays for its money. And the idea is that if you're charging 6, 8, 10%, you're really asking students or graduates to pay the cost of the national debt, and we ought to be encouraging students to get educated, not discouraging them. I have another bill that would allow employers to match student loan repayments of their employees, which would both encourage repayment. It would provide an incentive for people to work for employers who offered that kind of a benefit, and also provide the employers with a way to get a financial benefit for helping their employees. Those are a couple ideas that I've had for how to address this issue, because right now there's more student loan debt in the economy than credit card debt, and that's a real drag on students who are fearful of taking on that kind of debt, and then when they get out, they're waiting to buy a house and start their family, and that's a real economic slower too. So I appreciate the question. It's a real priority for me and something that I hope to continue to work to overcome.
Before we get to the next question, I just want to remind everyone, if you're listening in and you would like to ask a question of Congressman Scott Peters, please press 0, and one of our volunteer operators will get your question lined up in our question queue, and you'll get to talk to Congressman Peters directly and ask him a question. Next, I'd like to go to Gregory Soul in San Diego. I think you've been holding for a while. Greg, are you on the line? I'm sorry, Gregory, are you on the line? You're on the line with Congressman
Peters. Yes, I am.
Hi, Gregory.
Hi, Congressman Peter. Couple of things. I take exception to your ads or your supporters' ads about Carl DeMaio as a Tea Party candidate. I personally believe there's nothing negative about the Tea Party.
Mm-hmm.
They are all about fiscal responsibility. For too long, we've lived with this with this unending national debt situation. You voted to increase the national debt every time it's come up. I personally believe there's no free lunch. The young lady who spoke about college education and loans and so forth, instead of complaining about the loans, I think somebody needs to look at what are the reasons for the increasing costs of college.
Right.
And that's what we don't do.
Well, I think that's part of it, but let me just address the Tea Party issue. I don't think there's anything immoral about being a Tea Party person, but I just don't think it's been a very productive thing for the country. And I think also that the Tea Party, you'd have to wonder if they're going to vote no all the time, whether you're really going to get to an agreement to balance the budget. In 2011, after the Tea Party wave, you saw Congress just break because there was no compromise. and we had our credit downgraded for the first time in our nation's history, that meant that all the borrowing that were doing would get potentially much more expensive. So if you cared about the cost of debt, you would not want to do that. You want to get a regular budget agreement every year that people could depend on and invest from. The other thing is, I've been a proponent. You said increase the national debt. I think you're talking about the debt ceiling, and I just would point out to people that the debt ceiling is like the credit card bill. You can't, you vote not to increase the debt ceiling. You're voting not to pay your bills. And the way a family would deal with a credit card bill where they spend too much money is not to rip up the credit card bill. They'd still have to pay their debts, but they would go back and look at how they're spending, and that's what the country needs to do. And that's why, my approach for the debt ceiling, which would actually force Congress to deal with the long-term debt, has been praised by fiscal deficit hawks, both Republicans and Democrats. And that's how we're going to have to do it. It's going to have to be an agreement between Republicans and Democrats. And what I find in the Tea Party and the extremist views that they take on, and this is frankly what Mr. DeMaio's record has been, is that they're just not willing to agree. And if people aren't willing to agree, we're just not going to make any headway on these issues. So I very much appreciate the question. We have a difference of opinion about what the Tea Party's all about. I think it's not been productive. I think we're really going to have people from both sides of the aisle who are willing to find common ground if we're going to deal with the debt, which I do agree is an issue. But talking about it is one thing and acting on it is another, and I prefer the second. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to go to Cynthia in Pacific Beach. Cynthia, are you on the line? You are on the phone with Congressman Scott Peters.
Hi,
Hi, Congressman Peters. How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good this evening. Thank you for having this town hall, and I really appreciate the opportunity to ask some questions as well as to listen to all the comments from everybody else and your responses. My concern is that we do have a Congress that's stuck in very polarized, and I'm just wondering what it is that you have thought of or are working on, if anything, about getting all of the voters out so we get a much greater general perspective. As we know, the reality is that we don't have a very strong voter turnout at any election, let alone the midterm elections. And consequently, what happens is those voters that are the most polarized have the tendency to be those that do turn out. I've had the opportunity to be in other countries where voting is mandatory or 100% is expected to vote, and it just seems to have a much better general perspective and take a lot of this stuff on polarized issues away, as well as all of the negative campaigning and funding that goes toward a lot of that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, obviously, you're hitting something that's very important to me. We've had a field effort beginning the first of the year, and the main part of the work is to remind people that there's an election and get them out to vote. So I share your concern. It does strike me, it's sad that so many people have died to fight for our freedoms, and one of those is the ability to vote and to choose who runs our government. I don't understand why anyone would not honor that sacrifice by making sure that they vote. It just makes sense to me. And so I appreciate your being willing to take it on. I would say the other thing is that a lot of people are enticed by red meat, and I think a lot of the rhetoric has divided people, and that people who offer an agenda of working together and finding consensus, that sometimes is a lot less exciting, I guess, to voters than the people who offer the most partisan kind of outlook. And I would just say that people are going to get the government that they pick, and if people want someone who's going to try to work toward the middle and work with everyone, as has been my record, we're going to have to get them interested in that. So I'm not sure about requiring people to vote. I think we should be definitely making voting easier. I like the idea that California allows online registration. In fact, people could do that all night tonight. I like the idea that we can do vote by mail here. I would like to empower more of that. I'd like to see the same across the country. I think one thing I would say is that the government shouldn't be getting in the way, and that it's not happening so much in California, but voter suppression is something that's really, I think, something to be worked against. So I thank you for your interest, and I would just ask you to remind your neighbors that there's a vote, and whoever they vote for, or there's an election, or whoever they vote for, I hope they will get out and participate.
Thank you for that call, that question, Cynthia. I'm going to go to Nina in Carmel Valley. Nina, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am. Hi, Mr.
Hi,
Peters.
Nina. Hi.
Hi, I have a question about, like you mentioned, healthcare, and I have a son going UCLA. Top students, however, he wants to go to med school, and it seems like that they have to do so much in the leadership, and it's very difficult to find in hospitals or nearby. I've been searching for him. He's been searching in San Diego. So how can our kids, the students, they want to be in healthcare, they want to do research, but there is not enough place to be?
Well, first of all, congratulations on your son doing so well in school. UCLA is a great place to go to school, and I wish him the best. I think, as a parent, you advise your child to follow his heart and what he loves, and he'll be good at it if he loves it. I do think that one of the issues that we've seen in the medical community is a concern that as reimbursements are squeezed, that there will be fewer positions and less demand for medical professionals, including doctors. And I think one of the things in the healthcare law we have to do is to make sure that we're providing good support for graduate medical education and reimbursements for doctors that are sufficient to make sure that we're going to have the supply that we need. With more people enrolled, we're going to need more healthcare providers. I think you have a lot, as you know, that there are a lot more people insured now under the new healthcare law. That's going to create a demand for healthcare providers, including doctors. So I would be optimistic that down the line there will be a spot for your son. And as far as research, as I said before, it's a real priority for me to make sure that we fund research to keep America the leader worldwide in science. And thank you very much for your call.
Thank you for your call. We are just about out of time, and we appreciate everyone who stayed on the line with us tonight. There were quite a few of you that stayed on the line the entire almost 40 minutes for our call tonight. If you are still waiting on the line and wanting to ask the Congressman a question, our operators will stay on the line after the call is over and get your questions, and we will do our best to get you an answer directly, either via email or a phone call. So please stay on the line after we're done here, and we'll get to your questions too. With that, I'd like to give Scott just a quick minute to say some closing remarks.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being on the call and for your interest in the election. Obviously, it's hotly contested, and it's not all about 30-second commercials. I hope we've had a good conversation. And again, as Marianne said, if you have more questions, please let us know. Stay on the line, or you can always call us back or email us. Remember, two things is that tonight you can still register to vote until 11:59. If you think you might have moved and you might, or if you think you might not be registered, please take the opportunity to do that. And then please vote. Please vote. If you have a ballot, mail ballot, make sure you send it in. Or you can also drop it off at the registrar. And I guess I just, whoever you vote for, though, we hope that you appreciate that it's such a precious gift to be able to choose who represents us in government, and I hope you will participate and vote. Thanks again for joining us tonight. We hope you have a good night, and take care. Bye-bye.